Across the globe, there are places that defy logic and challenge our understanding of history. Monuments too large to have been crafted with rudimentary tools. Mysterious artifacts that don't fit into accepted timelines. And long-lost cultures that vanished entirely, leaving no explanation behind. These aren't tales from folklore or myth. They are verified enigmas that continue to perplex modern researchers. How were they constructed? Who created them? And perhaps most curiously, what else lies hidden, still awaiting discovery? From massive stone constructions, no contemporary crane could lift to ancient ruins, submerged beneath ocean waters. The ancient world offers countless puzzles that stretch the boundaries of what we thought possible. Today, we dive into some of the greatest unsolved historical mysteries known to humankind. The monumental mystery of Baalbek. In the modern country of Lebanon lies an ancient complex where Roman temples tower above the landscape. Temples once devoted to gods like Jupiter and Bacchus. While these ruins are already grand and impressive, it's what lies beneath them that truly stuns researchers. The base of this temple complex features some of the largest stone blocks ever used in construction, forming what's called the Baalbek platform. The most famous among them, 3 stones known collectively as the Trilithon, weigh between 800 and 1,000 tons each. Even today, lifting such stones would be a serious challenge for modern equipment. What's even more remarkable is their placement. These titanic stones are perfectly aligned and rest approximately 12 meters above ground level. No visible bonding material holds them together, and they sit so precisely fitted that even a blade can't easily slip between them. A short distance from the site lies an even heavier stone, commonly referred to as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, which weighs an estimated 1,200 tons. Still lodged in its quarry bed, it appears shaped and prepared, yet it was never transported. Why was it abandoned? Mainstream historians typically attribute the Baalbek construction to Roman engineers, arguing that these master builders were capable of extraordinary feats. The Romans, after all, built aqueducts, amphitheaters, and highways that still stand today. However, a critical detail complicates this explanation. No Roman structure of known origin includes stones approaching this weight class. Even their most advanced projects never dealt with such massive loads. Because of this, some experts believe the foundations of Baalbek predate the Roman Empire entirely. Certain theories suggest the site may have been originally constructed by the Phoenicians, a seafaring civilization with settlements spread across the Mediterranean. Others push the timeline even further back, proposing that an entirely unknown culture may have been responsible. That leads to an even bigger question. How could an ancient society, far older than the Romans, have possessed the ability to move and place stones of such massive size? Several fringe hypotheses attempt to address this. Some theorists suggest lost forms of mechanical knowledge, using principles of leverage, sound resonance, or vibration, to reduce the apparent weight of objects. Others believe that ancient civilizations developed advanced technologies that were never passed down, ultimately lost through natural disaster or time. A particularly controversial notion is that Baalbek was not built for humans at all. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory point to the site's size, alignment, and precision as evidence that it may have been a platform for otherworldly visitors, perhaps even a landing site. Though lacking direct evidence, this theory remains popular among alternative historians and researchers. Whatever the truth, no one has definitively explained how the stones of Baalbek were moved, or why such incredible effort was invested in their placement. They remain one of archaeology's most enduring puzzles. The enigma of the Piri Reis map. In 1929, researchers in Istanbul stumbled upon a fragment of a world map drawn on gazelle skin. It had been tucked away in the Topkapi Palace archives, unnoticed for centuries. The document turned out to be a 1513 map created by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. At first glance, it showed the coastlines of South America, West Africa, and Europe. But something unusual caught scholars' attention: a detailed depiction of a southern landmass, which many believe resembles Antarctica. Even stranger, it was portrayed without its ice sheet. This is significant because Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, over 300 years after the map was drawn. Furthermore, its ice-covered terrain wasn't mapped accurately until the 20th century using radar and satellite technology. How could a 16th century mapmaker include such information? According to Piri Reis himself, his map was compiled using older sources, including ancient charts believed to date back to the time of Alexander the Great. He claimed to have drawn from maps created by Greek, Arab, and possibly even pre-Islamic sailors. If his claims are true, this would suggest that ancient civilizations had detailed geographical knowledge far beyond what we currently credit them for. Some scholars argue that the landmass isn't Antarctica at all, but simply a misrepresented southern extension of South America. Others insist that the coastline matches the contours of Queen Maud Land, part of Antarctica, beneath the ice. There are even theories proposing that seafarers from lost civilizations mapped the region when it was ice-free, potentially over 6,000 years ago. Critics caution against overinterpretation. They argue that early cartographers often combined fact, myth, and hearsay in their maps. Distorted geography was common, especially when sources were pieced together secondhand. Still, the Piri Reis map remains one of the most discussed cartographic anomalies in history. Whether it's a glimpse into forgotten knowledge or just an artistic misjudgment, it continues to fuel debate about the true extent of ancient exploration. Maps are powerful. They show not only what people knew, but how they saw the world. And sometimes they suggest someone knew much more than we thought possible. Göbekli Tepe, the oldest monumental structure. On a remote hill in southeastern Turkey, a discovery made in the late 20th century would shake the foundations of archaeology. Known as Göbekli Tepe, this site predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years, and the Great Pyramids by 7,000. Yet it's far more complex than either. The site consists of a series of large circular enclosures, each built from enormous T-shaped limestone pillars, some reaching up to 6 meters in height and weighing more than 20 tons. These stones are not just functional, they're covered in carvings of animals, symbols, and humanoid forms. What shocks archaeologists is not just the size or age of the site, but what it implies about the people who built it. At the time Göbekli Tepe was constructed, nearly 12,000 years ago, humans were thought to be simple hunter-gatherers, lacking permanent settlements or advanced tools. Yet here we see not only permanent architecture, but sophisticated artwork, planning, and engineering. The construction would have required coordinated labor, deep social organization, and detailed knowledge of stoneworking. More intriguingly, there's no evidence of agriculture at the site. No fields or farming tools have been found. This contradicts the standard theory of human development, which suggests that organized religion and monuments only arose after the invention of agriculture and cities. Instead, Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite, that spiritual or communal gathering places may have preceded farming. The need for such rituals may have even driven humans to invent agriculture as a way to support larger, sedentary populations. Another mystery is that the site was intentionally buried around 8000 BCE. The structures weren't abandoned, they were carefully filled in with rubble and sediment, preserving them for millennia. No one knows why. Was it a ritual closure, a defense against something, or simply an act of reverence? Today, only a small portion of the site has been excavated. What lies beneath the rest of the hill remains unknown. Göbekli Tepe challenges everything we thought we knew about the origins of civilization. It forces us to ask, could there have been an earlier, forgotten chapter in human history? One where knowledge, culture, and complex society bloomed, then vanished? Some believe Göbekli Tepe could be the remnants of a civilization lost to time, a culture wiped out by cataclysm or climate change, leaving only cryptic monuments behind. Regardless of its origin, the site remains one of the most compelling archaeological mysteries on Earth. A structure that predates the known world, built by hands we can't yet fully understand. Doggerland, the lost world beneath the waves. Beneath the waters of the North Sea lies a forgotten landscape once walked by humans. This land, now submerged, once connected Great Britain to mainland Europe. Today we call it Doggerland. Thousands of years ago, during the last ice age, sea levels were far lower. Much of the North Sea was dry land, a vast green plain stretching from modern-day Britain to the Netherlands and Denmark. It was filled with rivers, forests, lakes, and abundant wildlife. Humans hunted mammoths, fished in rivers, and gathered wild fruits in the valleys of Doggerland. As the climate warmed and glaciers melted, the seas began to rise. Over time, the land shrank. But one catastrophic event delivered the final blow. Around 8,200 years ago, a massive underwater landslide occurred off the coast of Norway. Known as the Storegga Slide, it triggered a huge tsunami. Walls of water raced toward the coastline, flooding large portions of Doggerland in a single day. Entire communities may have been wiped out. The rest of the land slowly drowned over the following centuries, disappearing beneath rising tides. By around 6000 BCE, Doggerland was gone. For a long time, its existence was only theory. But in recent decades, trawler fishermen began pulling strange things from the sea. Bones from mammoths and lions, ancient human tools, spearheads, and even the remains of forest trees. These finds offered proof Doggerland had once teemed with life. Archaeologists, using sonar and seismic scans, began mapping the seafloor. They discovered the ghostly outlines of rivers and hills buried beneath the waves, confirming the presence of an ancient landscape. Doggerland is sometimes called Britain's Atlantis, not because it was mythical, but because it was real and lost. And while it didn't have grand temples or advanced cities, it was home to people who left no written record. only scattered artifacts. Could memories of Doggerland have survived in folk tales, stories of lands swallowed by the sea? Some researchers believe that flood myths, like those in Sumerian and biblical texts, may echo these prehistoric drownings. Others wonder how many more Doggerlands lie hidden beneath the oceans. After all, during the Ice Age, global sea levels were more than 100 meters lower than they are today. Whole regions of Southeast Asia, the Americas, and the Mediterranean could have hosted similar lost civilizations now underwater. Doggerland reminds us that human history isn't just buried beneath sand or forest. It can be hidden beneath the waves, forgotten until rediscovered by chance. And what we've found so far may only scratch the surface of what was once a vast and thriving world. Petra, the rose-red city lost to time, hidden within the rugged canyons of Jordan, carved directly into red sandstone cliffs, lies one of the world's most mesmerizing ancient cities, Petra. Once a bustling trade hub and capital of the Nabatean kingdom, Petra was unknown to the Western world until 1812, when it was rediscovered by Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt. Before that, centuries of sand and silence had erased it from maps and memory. Its most iconic structure, Al-Khazna, or the Treasury, rises nearly 40 meters high. With an intricately carved facade blending Greek, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian styles, it is both a masterpiece of art and an engineering feat. Yet it's only one of hundreds of structures carved into Petra's rock faces: tombs, temples, altars, and even an amphitheater, all chiseled by hand from the cliffs. The true age of Petra is debated. While most scholars date major construction to the 1st century BCE, some evidence suggests the area was inhabited and used for ritual purposes long before that. The Nabateans were expert builders, engineers, and traders who managed to create an oasis city in one of the driest regions on Earth. Their most astonishing achievement: a complex water system. Petra's survival depended on its ability to store, distribute, and preserve water. Engineers dug channels into the rock, built underground cisterns, and created hidden pipes, allowing the city to flourish despite the harsh desert climate. But Petra's mystery doesn't end with its grandeur. Many of the city's carvings remain undeciphered, and while it was clearly a powerful center of commerce and culture, historians still debate exactly why it fell. Was it Roman conquest, a shift in trade routes, or a devastating earthquake that brought its decline? Even stranger is the question of how such massive structures were carved so precisely, without iron tools or modern technology. The rock-cut methods used in Petra mirror similar wonders found in India's Ellora caves and Egypt's rock tombs. Could these sites share forgotten building techniques passed across ancient cultures? Some theorists believe Petra was built atop an even older city, perhaps one that predated the Nabateans by centuries, or more. The unique blend of architectural influences hints at a melting pot of civilizations, some of which remain unidentified. Today, Petra stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new 7 wonders of the world. But it is also a city of secrets. Only a fraction of its structures have been properly excavated or studied. Much of Petra remains buried beneath rock and sand, waiting to be unearthed. It is a place where time stands still, a silent reminder that even the greatest civilizations can vanish into the cliffs, their stories half told and their legacy shrouded in stone. Derinkuyu, the underground city beneath Cappadocia. Beneath the rolling hills and strange rock formations of central Turkey lies a hidden world few expected to find. A vast, ancient underground city called Derinkuyu. Discovered by accident in 1963, when a resident knocked down a basement wall, Derinkuyu revealed itself as a sprawling subterranean complex, stretching multiple stories below the surface. What looked like a storage room opened into narrow passageways, then entire chambers, tunnels, wells, and ventilation shafts. It quickly became clear this was not a shelter, it was a city. Derinkuyu descends at least 60 meters underground and could house up to 20,000 people, including livestock. The city contains kitchens, living quarters, schools, wineries, wells, storage areas, and even what may have been religious spaces. Giant stone doors, circular and weighing several hundred kilograms, were designed to seal off corridors and block intruders. Even more impressive is the ventilation system. A vast network of air shafts kept oxygen circulating throughout the city. Fresh water was available from underground wells, and smoke was carefully vented through hidden chimneys. Despite being buried deep in the earth, Derinkuyu was fully functional and self-sustaining. But the biggest mystery remains: who built it and why? Some historians believe Derinkuyu was constructed by the Phrygians around the 8th or 7th century BCE, later expanded by early Christians seeking refuge from persecution. Others argue that its foundations may be far older, possibly dating back to the Hittites or even before recorded history. Why would an entire civilization live underground? Some theories point to natural threats, harsh winters, marauding invaders, or even volcanic activity. But others suggest more ominous reasons, such as protection from atmospheric dangers, cosmic radiation, or unknown global cataclysms. Cappadocia is home to dozens of underground cities like Derinkuyu, though none are as large or elaborate. Some are connected by tunnels stretching kilometers. Together, they form a vast, secret world below the surface. Strangely, the architecture of Derinkuyu shows parallels to other underground structures found across the globe, from subterranean temples in India to rock-cut tombs in Egypt, and even tunnel networks in South America. Could these be evidence of a shared ancient tradition, or were multiple cultures responding to the same global event? Mainstream archaeology holds that Derinkuyu was a refuge, but the scale, engineering, and secrecy suggest something more. A place designed for long-term survival, possibly built by a people whose knowledge of stone, airflow, and community has since been forgotten. To this day, the full extent of Derinkuyu remains unexplored. New chambers are still being discovered. As archaeologists dig deeper, the silence of stone may eventually whisper its forgotten truth. Until then, Derinkuyu stands as a reminder. History isn't always above ground. Sometimes it's hidden beneath our feet. The Nazca Lines, messages etched into earth. In the arid desert plains of southern Peru, enormous shapes stretch across the landscape. Geometric forms, spirals, straight lines, and massive figures of animals, plants, and humans. They are known as the Nazca Lines, and they remain one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. First brought to international attention in the 20th century, the Nazca Lines were created by removing reddish-brown stones from the desert surface to reveal the lighter-colored earth beneath. Some of the lines are simple, running for kilometers in perfectly straight paths. Others are complex depictions of spiders, monkeys, hummingbirds, whales, and even humanoid beings with strange proportions. The figures are so massive, some stretching over 300 meters, that they are barely visible from the ground. This raises a simple but critical question. Who were the Nazca people creating these geoglyphs for, if they couldn't see them from where they stood? The Nazca civilization flourished between 100 BCE and 800 CE. Most scholars believe the lines had religious or astronomical significance. Some lines align with the solstices or point toward water sources, precious in the desert. Others may have been ceremonial pathways walked during rituals. Yet many mysteries remain. Why such massive scale? Why the animal forms? And how did the Nazca maintain such precision across rugged terrain? One theory proposes that the lines served as offerings to sky gods, visible only from the heavens. Some point to the flat-topped mountains nearby, which could have offered limited views, though certainly not full aerial perspectives. The most controversial ideas come from ancient astronaut theorists. They argue that the Nazca Lines resemble runways or landing pads, perhaps meant for aerial visitors. While widely dismissed by scholars, this view gained popularity in books and documentaries throughout the 20th century. More grounded interpretations suggest that the lines were part of a ritual landscape, a sacred space marked by walking paths, ceremonies, and symbols to communicate with divine forces. Others think the geoglyphs are part of a massive celestial map. Recent research using drones, satellite imagery, and AI has revealed even more figures hidden beneath the sand, dozens previously undetected, including humanoid shapes and stylized animals. Many were so eroded that they'd gone unnoticed for centuries. But no artifacts, inscriptions, or definitive explanations have ever been found near the lines. What drove the Nazca to create these enormous works, visible only from above, lasting for millennia? Whether they were praying for rain, honoring deities, mapping the stars, or reaching for something beyond this world, the lines remain silent, etched into the earth like messages waiting to be decoded. The desert has preserved them. Time has not erased them. And still they ask, who were you trying to reach? The Yonaguni Monument, nature or lost civilization? Off the southern coast of Japan, near the island of Yonaguni, divers discovered something strange beneath the waves. A massive stone structure with flat surfaces, sharp angles, and geometric patterns, known as the Yonaguni Monument. This underwater formation has sparked decades of debate. Was it crafted by humans or shaped by natural forces? The structure lies about 25 meters below sea level and resembles a stepped pyramid or terrace. It features flat platforms, right angles, what appear to be staircases, and even large pillars. Some divers claim to have seen carvings, door-like openings, and a road-like trench. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura argues that Yonaguni is the remnant of a prehistoric city, possibly built by a civilization over 10,000 years ago, before the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower. He believes earthquakes and rising oceans submerged the city, preserving it beneath the sea. If this is true, Yonaguni would be among the oldest known man-made structures on Earth, predating Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley. But many geologists and archaeologists remain skeptical. They argue that the monument's features can be explained by natural fracturing, tectonic activity, and erosion. Sandstone tends to break into straight lines and angular shapes over time, especially in areas with seismic movement like Japan. Despite this, the monument's regularity continues to fascinate. Divers report symmetrical patterns, neatly cut edges, and shapes that seem intentional rather than random. Adding to the intrigue, stone tools and pottery fragments have been found in the surrounding area, though not directly on the structure itself. These artifacts suggest that ancient people did inhabit Yonaguni's coastline, possibly long before it was submerged. Some researchers theorize that the monument could be a natural formation later modified by human hands, perhaps as a ceremonial site, shrine, or fortress. Others go further, suggesting Yonaguni is a remnant of a sunken civilization, maybe even the real-world origin of Atlantis legends in Asia. Although no writing or undeniable proof has been found, the mystery remains open. What complicates matters is that underwater archaeology is incredibly difficult. Strong currents, limited visibility, and preservation challenges mean much of Yonaguni remains unstudied. Whether entirely natural or partially man-made, the Yonaguni monument continues to capture imaginations. It reminds us that much of our planet's history may lie beneath the oceans, waiting quietly in the deep. After all, nearly 70% of Earth's surface is underwater, and we've explored only a fraction of it. What else might be hidden beneath the waves? Sacsayhuaman, stonework beyond comprehension. High in the Andes, above the city of Cusco, Peru, lies a site that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient construction. It's called Sacsayhuaman, and it's one of the most astounding examples of megalithic architecture in the world. Built by the Inca, according to mainstream archaeology, the fortress consists of massive stone walls made from boulders weighing as much as 200 tons. These stones are not only enormous, but also fit together so tightly that a sheet of paper cannot slide between them. What truly astonishes observers is the precision with which the stones were cut and assembled without mortar. The edges are often curved, with complex interlocking shapes. Many stones have more than a dozen angles, and each fits perfectly with its neighbors like a 3D jigsaw puzzle. How were these stones transported? The Inca had no wheels, no draft animals capable of hauling such weights, and no steel tools. They allegedly used bronze tools and stone hammers, but modern tests show these methods would take years, even to shape a single block. Despite their limited technology, the builders achieved a level of perfection that modern engineers still marvel at. Some stones even have internal locking features, designed to resist earthquakes, a frequent hazard in the region. Another mystery is how the builders lifted and placed the stones. Some theorists suggest they used ramps, pulleys, or counterweights, but no remnants of such tools or devices have ever been found at the site. Alternative researchers propose even more radical ideas, that the Inca inherited Sacsayhuaman from an older, unknown civilization with more advanced techniques, or even that the stones were softened with unknown chemicals to mold them like clay. This idea, while speculative, has roots in native legends that speak of plant liquids used to dissolve stone. Beyond its walls, the site also features precisely cut stone canals, ritual altars, and drainage systems. Some structures suggest astronomical alignments and ceremonial purposes. Sacsayhuaman was more than a military fortress. It was a sacred space, a spiritual center, and possibly even an ancient technological marvel. To this day, we don't know exactly how it was built, or why such incredible effort was made to ensure such precision. What remains is a masterpiece of engineering that defies easy explanation, one that seems more advanced the closer you look. And while Cusco has grown and changed over centuries, Sacsayhuaman still watches silently from above, its giant stones locked in place, whispering secrets of a forgotten era. The Antikythera mechanism, ancient clockwork from the depths. In 1901, sponge divers exploring a Roman-era shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera made a discovery that would baffle science for over a century. Among the statues, amphorae, and relics pulled from the wreck, one object stood apart: a corroded lump of bronze and wood that turned out to be the remains of a mechanical device. Today, it is known as the Hasim Antikythera mechanism, a complex system of interlocking gears built more than 2,000 years ago. Once cleaned and studied, researchers found that the device contained dozens of intricately cut gears, inscriptions, and dials. It could predict eclipses, model the movements of the sun and moon, track lunar phases, and even account for the irregular orbit of the moon. A level of precision far beyond what historians believed ancient Greeks were capable of. The device is often called the world's first analog computer. The sophistication of the mechanism stunned experts. For many years, it was thought that such technology didn't appear until the Renaissance, nearly 1,500 years later. Nothing else like it has ever been found from the ancient world. So where did it come from, and how was such knowledge lost? The mechanism is believed to have been built around 150–100 BCE, possibly in Rhodes, a hub of ancient astronomy and engineering. Its internal gears, numbering over 30, were arranged with mathematical precision, suggesting advanced understanding of mechanics and astronomy. Some scholars attribute it to the followers of Hipparchus, or Archimedes, though there's no consensus. Modern CT scans and 3D imaging have revealed much about how the mechanism worked, but questions remain. Was it a one-of-a-kind masterpiece? Or were such devices once common among elites and scholars, with others lost to time? The shipwreck where it was found lay over 45 meters deep, scattered across the seafloor. Ongoing expeditions continue to search for other pieces of the device, and perhaps similar instruments yet undiscovered. The Antikythera mechanism challenges our assumptions about the technological capabilities of the ancient world. It suggests that humanity may have reached peaks of knowledge and craftsmanship, only to lose them through war, collapse, or neglect. As scientists race to recreate the device using only ancient tools, they find themselves retracing the steps of minds that were, in many ways, ahead of their time. How many other breakthroughs, machines, tools, or methods were lost to the sea, buried in ruins, or burned in forgotten libraries? The Antikythera mechanism is a message from the past, a whisper from a world more brilliant than we ever imagined. Pumapunku, stones that shouldn't exist. High on the Andean plateau in modern-day Bolivia, near the ruins of Tiwanaku, lies one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites in the world. Pumapunku. At first glance, the site looks like a scattered collection of giant stone blocks, but a closer look reveals something far more mysterious. The stones, many made of andesite, a very hard volcanic rock, were cut with extraordinary precision. Some have laser-straight edges, perfect 90-degree angles, and complex interlocking joints. One of the most iconic features of Pumapunku is the so-called arch blocks, massive stones shaped like the letter H that appear almost mass-produced. Each one is nearly identical, with cuts and grooves that fit with others like puzzle pieces. The largest stone at the site weighs over 130 tons. How are these blocks transported across rugged terrain and placed so precisely, especially considering that the Tiwanaku culture is believed to have had no written language, no metal tools capable of cutting andesite, and no known use of the wheel? Mainstream archaeologists suggest that the site was constructed around 500 to 600 CE, and that its builders used bronze chisels and stone hammers. But skeptics argue that these tools could not have produced the clean, sharp corners and intricate details seen at Pumapunku. The level of engineering raises many questions. Some researchers propose that advanced techniques, possibly involving lost technologies, were used to mold or cast the stones into shape. Others believe that Pumapunku is much older than officially believed, possibly built by a lost civilization long before the rise of Tiwanaku. Some theorists even suggest that the site could be evidence of contact with advanced beings, whether from Earth's forgotten past or beyond. Though controversial, these ideas stem from one central fact. Pumapunku does not fit neatly into the historical timeline we've built. Radiocarbon dating and studies of nearby Tiwanaku architecture suggest human activity in the area thousands of years ago, but the precision stonework remains unmatched, even by modern standards. Why was it built? What tools were used? Was it a ceremonial center, a power station, or something entirely different? Pumapunku stands in silent defiance of easy explanation. Its stones, unmoved by centuries of wind and weather, still lock together with uncanny accuracy. In the mystery of its construction, we glimpse a deeper mystery, about the history of human ingenuity, and about what may have come before us, only to be erased by time. The Georgia Guidestones, modern monument or ancient warning. In the rural countryside of Elbert County, Georgia, a strange monument once stood, one that sparked decades of speculation, controversy, and conspiracy. Known as the Georgia Guidestones, it was erected in 1980 under mysterious circumstances by an unknown individual using the pseudonym R.C. Christian. The structure consisted of 4 massive granite slabs arranged in a cross, with a central pillar and a capstone on top. Etched into the stones were 10 guidelines, inscribed in 8 modern languages, including English, Spanish, Swahili, and Hindi. A shorter version was carved in ancient scripts, such as Babylonian cuneiform, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The most controversial inscription read, "Maintain humanity under 500,000 in perpetual balance with nature." Other messages included appeals for guiding reproduction wisely, uniting humanity under a new language, and balancing individual rights with social duties. To some, these principles sounded like a peaceful global philosophy. To others, they echoed chilling ideas of population control and authoritarian world government. Who funded the project? Why the secrecy? R.C. Christian claimed to represent a group that believed in rational thinking and long-term survival of humanity. He commissioned a local granite company to build the structure, paying in full, then vanished. Despite numerous investigations, the true identity of the sponsor was never confirmed. The guidestones were astronomically aligned. A hole in the center allowed viewers to track the North Star, while other features marked solstices and equinoxes. It was clear the builders intended the monument to last thousands of years, perhaps even as a message for future civilizations after a global catastrophe. Over the years, the monument attracted both tourists and vandals. Conspiracy theorists linked it to everything from Freemasonry to the New World Order. Others saw it as an art installation, or even a modern-day Rosetta Stone meant to preserve knowledge after societal collapse. Then, in 2022, the monument was bombed. One of the slabs was destroyed in an explosion, and the remaining structure was later demolished for safety reasons. To this day, no one has taken responsibility for building or destroying the Georgia Guidestones. Were they a warning, a prophecy, or simply a provocative statement meant to make us think? Whatever the intent, the Guidestones left behind a legacy of mystery, a modern monument with ancient echoes, inviting us to ponder our place in history and what kind of world we might one day leave behind. The Library of Alexandria, humanity's greatest lost treasure. In the ancient city of Alexandria, Egypt, where the Mediterranean world once met the East, stood one of the most ambitious and legendary institutions of all time, the Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BCE during the reign of Pharaoh Ptolemy I, the library was part of a grand vision to collect and preserve all human knowledge. It was more than a building, it was a center of learning, attracting scholars, scientists, philosophers, and poets from across the known world. Historians believe the library may have held hundreds of thousands of scrolls, containing works from Greece, Egypt, Persia, India, and Mesopotamia. These texts included philosophy, astronomy, medicine, mathematics, history, and religious thought, many of which have not survived to the modern day. It was said that every ship arriving in Alexandria's harbor was searched for books. If any were found, they were copied, the original kept in the library, and the copy returned to the owner. Knowledge was considered a treasure, and Alexandria sought to own it all. But then, it vanished. The exact cause of the library's destruction remains unknown. Some blame Julius Caesar, whose attack on Alexandria in 48 BCE may have set part of the city ablaze. Others point to later Roman emperors or religious extremists who saw the scrolls as pagan heresy. Perhaps it wasn't one single event, but a series of losses, wars, neglect, shifting powers that led to the slow fading of the library's legacy. Whatever the cause, the result was catastrophic. The loss of priceless works that could have advanced human understanding by centuries. What ancient technologies, medical knowledge, or philosophical insights were erased with those scrolls? Could the library have contained texts from even older, forgotten civilizations? Some believe it held secrets from Atlantis or pre-Egyptian cultures, lost lineages of human wisdom wiped clean by fire and time. The tragedy of the Library of Alexandria is not just what was lost, but what it represents. A moment when humanity gathered its brightest minds to share ideas freely, and failed to protect them. Today, it serves as a symbol of both the heights we can reach through knowledge and the fragility of progress when wisdom is not safeguarded. If we could step inside its long-vanished halls, what wonders might we find? And how different might our world be if they had survived? The Indus Valley. Civilization, an ancient enigma without a voice. Long before the rise of Rome, Greece, or even Egypt's pyramids, a highly advanced urban society flourished along the banks of the Indus River. Known today as the Indus Valley Civilization, or Harappan Civilization, it remains one of the oldest and most mysterious cultures in human history. At its peak around 2500 BCE, the Indus civilization covered more land than its contemporaries in Egypt and Mesopotamia, stretching across what is now Pakistan and northwest India. Its cities, like Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, and Dholavira, were marvels of planning. They featured grid-patterned streets, sophisticated drainage and sewage systems, multi-story homes, public baths and granaries, even rudimentary air conditioning via passive ventilation. What's striking is the uniformity across settlements. Bricks were made to standard dimensions, and city layouts followed similar designs, suggesting centralized governance or shared engineering principles across vast distances. But perhaps the greatest mystery is that we cannot read their writing. The Harappans used a script composed of symbols and pictograms found on seals, pottery, and tablets. Despite decades of study, no one has been able to decipher it. Without readable records, we don't know what they called themselves, how they governed, what they believed, or why their civilization declined. This silence makes the Harappans an anomaly. They left behind no grand temples, no lavish tombs, and no statues of kings or gods. Their culture appears egalitarian, with little evidence of social hierarchy or warfare. Could it have been a peaceful civilization, or is our picture simply incomplete? Their sudden decline around 1900 BCE is also unexplained. Some theories cite climate change, drought, or shifts in river courses. Others propose internal disruption or invasion, though little evidence supports violent collapse. Even their disappearance remains curious. The cities weren't burned or destroyed, they were simply abandoned. Did they migrate, integrate into other cultures, or vanish entirely? Adding to the mystery is how such a sophisticated society developed so early, with no clear cultural ancestors or influences. It appears suddenly in the archaeological record, fully formed. Some fringe theorists suggest the Harappans may have inherited knowledge from an even older, lost civilization, possibly connected to ancient flood myths or submerged cultures like Kumari Kandam. Today, the Indus Valley civilization leaves behind more questions than answers. We walk their streets in silence, marveling at their engineering, wondering who they were, and why they left no voice behind. Perhaps their story, like their script, is still waiting to be understood. The lost Egyptian labyrinth, a monument greater than the pyramids. Long ago, before the construction of Rome or the rise of classical Greece, ancient Egypt may have housed a structure so vast and complex that even the Great Pyramid seemed modest by comparison. This was the Jefus, Egyptian labyrinth, described by ancient writers like Herodotus, Strabo, and by Pliny the Elder, but curiously absent from modern maps and ruins. According to Herodotus, who visited Egypt in the 5th century BCE, the labyrinth lay near the city of Crocodilopolis, modern-day Hawara, and was an endless wonder. He claimed it had 3,000 rooms, half above ground, half below, and featured halls, chambers, courtyards, and colonnades all carved with intricate detail. He wrote that the structure outshined even the pyramids in grandeur and complexity. Other ancient historians echoed similar descriptions: an immense complex built of stone, decorated with reliefs, and serving both administrative and ceremonial purposes. But here's the mystery. No such structure stands today. Mainstream archaeology attributes these accounts to exaggeration or misinterpretation of mortuary temples from Egypt's Middle Kingdom. The most likely candidate is a ruined structure built by Amenemhat III at Hawara. Today, only the base and scattered blocks remain. However, in the 20th century, archaeologist Vansh Flinders Petrie mapped large foundations near Hawara that didn't match the visible ruins. More recently, a team using ground-penetrating radar detected massive underground cavities near the same site, consistent with what ancient authors described. Why hasn't the site been fully excavated? Some suggest logistical and funding issues. Others believe Egypt's antiquities authorities are hesitant to dig without more definitive evidence. There are even conspiracy theories claiming intentional suppression due to the structure's potential to rewrite history. If the labyrinth did exist as described, who built it and why? Could it have served as a massive library, temple, or tomb complex? Or was it part of an advanced knowledge system lost during periods of conquest and chaos? Some believe the underground sections could still exist, untouched and preserved beneath layers of Nile sediment, waiting to be uncovered. Until a full-scale excavation is allowed, the Egyptian labyrinth remains both a legend and a tantalizing possibility. If rediscovered, it might change everything we know about ancient Egypt, and reveal a chapter of history that has remained sealed in stone for thousands of years. The Olmec colossal heads, faces from a forgotten world. Scattered across the jungles and plains of southern Mexico, stand some of the most striking monuments in the ancient world. The Olmec colossal heads. Carved from massive basalt boulders, these giant stone sculptures range from 1.5 to over 3 meters in height and weigh up to 40 tons. Each one features a distinct human face, often wearing a helmet-like headdress, and displays unique facial features, suggesting they may represent real individuals, perhaps rulers or warriors. But the greatest mystery isn't just their craftsmanship, it's he who carved them, how, and why. The Olmecs are considered the mother civilization of Mesoamerica, predating the Maya and Aztecs. They flourished between 1500 BCE and 400 BCE, but left behind no written history to explain their art or beliefs. The heads were carved at a time when the Olmec people had no metal tools or wheels. Moving the basalt, quarried over 80 kilometers away, would have required immense effort across rivers and dense forest. Why go to such lengths, and what purpose did these heads serve? Some researchers suggest they were political monuments, honoring elite rulers or military leaders. The helmets may signify ball game players or ceremonial attire. Others propose they held religious or spiritual meaning, perhaps guarding sacred sites or marking boundaries of influence. Alternative theorists have pointed to the head's distinct features: broad noses, full lips, and wide faces, as evidence of transoceanic contact. Some claim African or Pacific influences, though mainstream archaeology attributes the features to native Mesoamerican traits. What adds to the mystery is that the heads appear without accompanying inscriptions or context. They were often found buried or toppled, their original placement lost to time. Only 17 heads have been discovered so far, mostly at sites like San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes. But these may represent just a fraction of what once existed. The Olmecs also left behind other enigmatic artifacts: jade figurines with almond-shaped eyes, strange half-human creatures, and altars shaped like cave entrances, possibly linked to underworld beliefs. Despite their influence on later cultures, we know surprisingly little about the Olmecs. Their language remains undeciphered, and their disappearance around 400 BCE is still unexplained. The colossal heads endure as stone witnesses to a civilization that shaped Mesoamerica, yet left few words behind. They gaze silently across centuries, challenging us to understand the people who carved identity into stone, then vanished into the jungle mists. Thonis Heracleion, Egypt's Atlantis beneath the sea. For centuries, the ancient city of Thonis Heracleion existed only in legend, whispered in old texts, mentioned by Greek historians, and dismissed by many as a myth. Then, in the early 2000s, divers working in Abu Qir Bay off the coast of Egypt made a stunning discovery beneath layers of sand and silt. The ruins of an entire city, submerged just a few kilometers offshore. They had found Thonis Heracleion, once a thriving port, religious center, and gateway to Egypt from the Mediterranean. In its prime, around 600 BCE to 300 BCE, this city stood at the mouth of the Nile and served as a customs hub where ships from Greece and other lands were inspected before entering Egypt. Massive temples, colossal statues, stone docks, and hundreds of artifacts revealed its importance. Among the finds were giant statues of Egyptian gods and pharaohs, gold coins and jewelry, stone inscriptions in both Greek and Egyptian, remnants of ships, anchors, and harbor structures, temples dedicated to Amun and Osiris, linking it to deep religious significance. One of the most impressive discoveries was the Wat Naos of the Decades, a massive black granite shrine weighing over 15 tons. It had been broken into multiple pieces but remained largely intact, a symbol of the city's spiritual power. So why did Stonehenge Heracleion disappear? Geological studies suggest a combination of earthquakes, rising sea levels, and liquefaction, a process where saturated soil loses strength during a quake, caused the city to sink. By the 2nd century BCE, it was gone from history, buried under the sea for over 1,000 years. The discovery has rewritten parts of Egypt's maritime and religious history. It also lends credibility to other legends of sunken cities, like Atlantis or Canopus, and shows how much remains hidden beneath the world's waters. Stonehenge Heracleion is still being excavated. Only a fraction of the city has been uncovered, and each new dive reveals more. Statues, ceremonial objects, everyday tools, and even human remains. This once lost city reminds us that myth often has roots in truth, and that beneath the oceans lie entire chapters of human history waiting to be rediscovered. The stone spheres of Costa Rica. Perfect shapes. Unknown purpose. Deep in the jungles and river valleys of southern Costa Rica, hundreds of perfectly round stone spheres lie scattered across the landscape. Some are as small as a baseball. Others weigh over 15 tons and measure more than 2 meters in diameter, known locally as Las Bolas. These ancient artifacts were first brought to widespread attention in the 1930s, when United Fruit Company workers clearing land for banana plantations began unearthing them. Since then, more than 300 spheres have been discovered, many relocated from their original sites, others still buried. What makes them so mysterious? First, their near-perfect symmetry. Crafted from solid granite and other hard stones, the spheres exhibit an astonishing degree of precision, especially considering they were shaped over 1,000 years ago, long before the use of advanced tools or measurement instruments. Second, no one knows exactly who made them or why. They are attributed to the Dikis culture, which flourished in the region from around 700 CE to 1500 CE. But the Dikis left no written language, and no oral traditions have survived to explain the sphere's purpose. Were they markers of territory or social status? Symbols of cosmology or planets? Parts of ceremonial alignments with stars or solstices? Tools of unknown function or forgotten engineering? So far, no definitive answers exist. Some spheres were found arranged in lines, triangles, or geometric patterns, suggesting possible astronomical or ritual significance. Others were buried intentionally, perhaps to hide or protect them. Unfortunately, looting, relocation, and destruction over the decades have robbed researchers of crucial context. Many spheres now rest in public parks, museums, or even private gardens. Alternative theorists, as always, point to ancient aliens or lost global civilizations, citing the sphere's perfection as evidence. But geologists and archaeologists generally agree that the stones were shaped through a combination of controlled heating, pecking, and polishing over long periods. Still, the precision remains remarkable, especially considering that some of the hardest stones used would be difficult to shape even today. In 2014, UNESCO designated the stone spheres and associated archaeological sites as SAR World Heritage for their cultural significance. Yet they remain largely silent. No inscriptions, no texts, no tools have been found with them. They endure as quiet enigmas, perfectly round, undeniably human-made, and purposefully placed, reminding us that sometimes the most profound mysteries come in the simplest shapes. Nabta Playa, Africa's ancient stone calendar. Long before Stonehenge or the pyramids rose from the earth, nomadic people in what is now southern Egypt erected a mysterious stone circle in the heart of the Sahara Desert. This place is called Nabta Playa, a prehistoric site that may contain one of the earliest known astronomical alignments on the planet, dating back to at least 1000 BCE. Nabta Playa was once a seasonal lakebed, where early pastoralists gathered to graze cattle and hold ritual ceremonies. Amid this remote landscape, they placed stones in deliberate arrangements, circles, lines, and standing slabs. At the center of the site is a arch megalithic circle, composed of upright stones that align with the summer solstice sunrise. Other alignments may correspond to constellations such as Orion's belt, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of the stars. What's shocking is that this knowledge appears thousands of years before similar feats in Mesopotamia or Europe. Some archaeologists believe Nabta Playa functioned as a Baich proto-calendar, helping nomads track seasonal rains. Others suggest the site was religious in nature, perhaps honoring celestial deities or ancestral spirits tied to the sky. Excavations have revealed tombs and sacrificial cattle burials, ceramic artifacts and fire pits, subsurface structures beneath the sand, stone carvings hinting at symbolic meanings. Nabta Playa's builders belong to a prehistoric African culture that may have influenced the development of dynastic Egypt. Some researchers argue that ideas about astronomy, kingship, and temple alignment traveled northward along the Nile from these early Saharan societies. If true, it would shift the origin point of Egyptian civilization deeper into Africa's interior, and centuries further back in time. Still, much of Nabta Playa remains unexcavated. Sandstorms have buried many structures, and only fragments of the culture's beliefs have been recovered. Alternative theories suggest even older origins. Some writers propose links to a global system of megalithic knowledge shared between distant cultures. Others posit that Nabta Playa is a remnant of a forgotten chapter in human history, one where the sky dictated sacred architecture before cities ever rose. Whatever its purpose, Nabta Playa stands as a powerful reminder. Even in the harshest deserts, ancient humans looked to the stars, sought patterns in the heavens, and built monuments that would last long after they were gone. Part 2. Echoes of the Past. Deeper into the mystery. With so many ancient sites, artifacts, and forgotten technologies challenging conventional timelines, it's clear we've only scratched the surface. Part 2 of this journey ventures further into the unknown, exploring legends that linger in folklore, technologies that shouldn't exist, and ruins that seem to defy the tools of their time. From mysterious cave systems to forbidden texts, we continue our quest to understand not just by what ancient civilizations built, but by why and how Their secrets were buried beneath millennia of silence. The next chapter opens with a place as puzzling as it is profound. Hypogeum of Halsaflieni. Hypogeum of Halsaflieni. Underground. Resonance of the Ancients. Beneath the modern streets of Paola, Malta, lies a structure so mysterious, it continues to baffle archaeologists and acousticians alike. The Halsaflieni Hypogeum is an ancient underground complex carved entirely from limestone by hand more than 5,000 years ago. That makes it older than Stonehenge and the pyramids of Egypt. First discovered in 1902 during construction work, the Hypogeum spans 3 subterranean levels, with corridors, chambers, altars, and burial vaults cut with precision in total darkness. But it's not just the age or complexity that makes it unique, it's the acoustics. One chamber, known as the Oracle Room, produces deep, resonant tones when a person speaks or chants within a certain frequency, around 110 Hz. The sound reverberates throughout the entire structure, affecting anyone inside. Modern acoustic studies show that the Hypogeum was deliberately engineered to amplify human voice in specific ways, potentially altering brain states or creating trance-like experiences. Why would prehistoric people construct something so sophisticated? And how did they understand acoustics so precisely? The Hypogeum also held the remains of more than 7,000 individuals, suggesting it functioned as both a necropolis and a sacred site. Artifacts found within include pottery, carved figurines, and complex red ochre paintings that have survived for millennia. One of the strangest discoveries was a figurine known as the Pai Sleeping Lady, depicting a corpulent figure reclining in repose, often interpreted as a symbol of fertility, dreaming, or the afterlife. Some researchers believe the Hypogeum was a place of initiation, ritual, or more communal transformation, a gateway between the world of the living and the dead. Others theorize that the structure was used for shamanic or psychedelic rites, with the acoustic chamber playing a central role. And then there are the legends. Some early accounts claim that explorers found hidden tunnels leading deep under Malta, tunnels allegedly sealed by the military and never reopened. Others speak of a missing class of schoolchildren who vanished in the lower levels, never to be seen again. Though those tales remain unproven, they highlight the enduring aura of mystery around this place. The Hypogeum of Halsaflieni challenges the idea that prehistoric societies were simple. Instead, it hints at knowledge both symbolic and scientific, lost long before history was written in stone. In silence and shadow, it speaks in echoes, still resonating with questions thousands of years later. The Longyu Caves, hand-carved mystery beneath China. In Zhejiang province, eastern China, an astonishing discovery lay hidden beneath a quiet village. 24 massive hand-carved caverns, known as the Longyu Caves, unearthed in 1992 by a curious local villager who decided to pump water from a flooded depression in the earth. These caves defied every expectation. What emerged was a vast underground chamber, completely dry, precisely sculpted, and entirely man-made. Soon, more caves were found nearby, all exhibiting the same characteristics. Immense size, with some over 30 meters high and covering thousands of square meters. Pillars, staircases, and side chambers. Intricate parallel chisel marks covering every surface, consistent throughout all caves. Yet strangely, no historical record of their construction exists. No ancient texts, local legends, or dynastic scrolls mention the caves, despite their enormous scale and the monumental labor they would have required. Estimates suggest that each cave would have required the removal of thousands of tons of rock, done entirely by hand. Even more baffling, none of the removed stone has ever been found nearby. Who built the Longyou caves, and why? Their uniform structure and elegant symmetry suggest centralized planning, advanced surveying, and skilled labor. Yet there's no indication of their purpose. They contain no murals, carvings, or artifacts to indicate habitation, burial, or storage. Some scholars speculate they were quarries, though no signs of material repurposing exist. Others propose ceremonial or defensive functions. A few go further, suggesting a cathedral-like spiritual purpose lost to time. The consistent tool marks on the walls, resembling fine brushstrokes in rock, suggest a deliberate aesthetic choice, not just functionality. And despite being over 2,000 years old, based on weathering, the caves are so stable that no signs of collapse or flooding have occurred, despite earthquakes and erosion in the region. Alternative theories abound. Secret military complexes, forgotten dynastic projects, or even remnants of a now vanished high civilization. The government has preserved some of the caves, opening them for tourism. Yet little effort has been made to fully excavate or explore their depths. In the end, the Longyou caves stand as one of China's greatest unsolved mysteries. Vast, silent, and perfectly carved, but with no name to their builders and no memory in the annals of history. How do you forget an achievement of such scale? Or perhaps, was it meant to be forgotten? Mohenjo-Daro, ancient city or nuclear mystery. Among the ruins of the Indus Valley civilization lies one of the most meticulously planned cities of the ancient world. Mohenjo-Daro, located in present-day Pakistan. Built over 4,000 years ago, the city featured gridded streets and advanced drainage systems, multi-level brick buildings, public baths and granaries, a centralized layout suggesting urban planning. But alongside these impressive achievements, Mohenjo-Daro holds a mystery that has puzzled researchers and sparked controversial theories. In certain parts of the site, archaeologists discovered skeletons lying flat in the streets, as if death had struck suddenly. The bodies show no signs of trauma or burial, just sudden collapse. Even more bizarrely, areas of the city exhibit signs of intense heat. Some stone structures appear to have been melted or fused, and layers of vitrified material, sand turned to glass, have been uncovered. These findings led some to speculate about a massive explosion, possibly akin to a nuclear blast. Proponents of this theory point to the epicenter-like pattern of destruction, unusual radiation levels in some samples, though disputed, The absence of clear historical records explaining the event, legends from ancient Indian texts, like the Mahabharata, that describe fiery weapons and citywide devastation from the sky. Critics argue that such claims are exaggerated or misinterpreted. They suggest the heat damage could have been caused by natural disasters, massive fires, or lightning strikes. They also note that no radioactive isotopes consistent with nuclear activity have been conclusively identified at the site. Yet the kind sudden abandonment of Mohenjo-Daro, coupled with the strange patterns of destruction and human remains, continues to raise questions. Why did such a highly organized society collapse? Was it environmental change, drought, disease, or something more catastrophic? The Mahabharata, written centuries later, describes wars involving divine weapons that made the sun shine like 1,000 suns, and turned hair and nails white. Were these poetic metaphors, or garbled memories of a real ancient disaster? Whether the city fell to invaders, climate change, or an event we've yet to understand, Mohenjo-Daro remains a puzzle. A place where brilliant urban engineering met an abrupt and still unexplained end. Its ruins speak of greatness, and a mystery sealed in brick and ash. Tiwanaku, high-altitude enigma of the Andes. Near the shores of Lake Titicaca in Bolivia lies Tiwanaku, the ruins of a city that defy both age and altitude. Located over 3,800 meters, 12,500 feet above sea level, this ancient site once served as the center of a powerful pre-Inca civilization and remains one of the most baffling in the Americas. Tiwanaku, also spelled Tiahuanaco, features massive stone platforms, interlocking megalithic blocks, strange symbols carved into andesite, the famous Gateway of the Sun, a monolithic arch engraved with complex cosmological figures. Much like Pumapunku, located nearby, Tiwanaku showcases engineering that seems to outpace the tools thought available at the time. Some blocks weigh more than 100 tons, yet were transported across rugged terrain and fitted with remarkable precision. There's no mortar between them, just incredibly tight joins that have survived centuries of weathering. But who were the Tiwanaku people? The culture thrived between roughly 500 and 1000 CE, influencing a vast area of the Andes. They built advanced agricultural systems, including raised fields and canal networks to adapt to the high-altitude environment. And yet, they left no written language, no surviving texts, no decipherable script, just iconography, statues, and ruins. How did they gain such architectural expertise? And why did the city eventually fall into decline and abandonment? Archaeologists propose climate change, drought, and political shifts as possible reasons, but some of the site's features continue to stir debate. Stone blocks with complex drill-like holes. Cut and groove methods resembling machine-level finish. Astronomical alignments built into platforms and doorways. Alternative researchers suggest the site may be much older than mainstream scholars believe, possibly dating back to the end of the last ice age. If true, it would place Tiwanaku among the oldest monumental sites on Earth. The Gateway of the Sun itself appears aligned to solar events and features a figure thought to be Viracocha, a creator god associated with floods, fire, and the rebirth of civilization. Could Tiwanaku be a remnant of a forgotten age, one that preserved knowledge from before the great cataclysms? Even today, locals view the site with reverence. Rituals are still held there during solstices and equinoxes, honoring the sacred connection between the land, the sky, and a past no one fully understands. In the thin air of the Andes, Tiwanaku stands as a silent testament to human ingenuity and to mysteries not yet written in any history book. Bimini Road, pathway to Atlantis or natural wonder. Just off the coast of North Bimini Island in the Bahamas lies a strange underwater formation that has stirred debate for over half a century. The Bimini Road. Discovered by divers in 1968, the formation consists of massive, flat limestone blocks arranged in a long, linear pattern on the seafloor, some as large as 4 meters wide. To the untrained eye, it looks like a man-made road or seawall, complete with right angles and tight-fitting slabs. Its location fueled immediate speculation. The Bimini Road lies near the area that mystic Edgar Cayce once predicted would reveal evidence of Atlantis, a lost civilization submerged after a cataclysmic event. The timing of the discovery seemed uncanny. Is it a coincidence, or a real link to something ancient and forgotten? Supporters of the Atlantis theory argue that the blocks appear deliberately placed. The angles and joints suggest intelligent design. Nearby underwater anomalies hint at larger submerged structures. Some even believe the formation extends into a larger geometric layout, now buried under centuries of marine growth and sand. Skeptics, however, point to natural geological processes. They argue the road is the result of beach rock fracturing in predictable ways, combined with erosion and ocean currents that smoothed and aligned the stones. Geologists studying the Bimini Road have found similar formations elsewhere in the Caribbean, suggesting the effect can occur without human involvement. But certain details remain curious. Some blocks appear stacked, like walls. Other stones show what look like tool marks or notches. The layout deviates from the purely natural in subtle but consistent ways. Could it be that an ancient seafaring people used this formation, or even enhanced it, for docking, ritual, or construction? The surrounding area has yielded stone anchors, submerged walls, and what appear to be steps or platforms, though none have been definitively linked to a known civilization. Whether man-made or natural, the Bimini Road invites us to consider deeper questions. How much of our history lies underwater? Could rising seas after the last ice age have submerged entire coastal cultures? And are legends like Atlantis simply distorted memories of real events, recorded in stone and swallowed by the sea? Until more evidence emerges, the Bimini Road remains where it began, a path of mystery beneath turquoise waves, quiet, ancient, and open to interpretation. Lost cities of the Amazon, civilization beneath the canopy. For centuries, the Amazon rainforest was thought to be too wild, too harsh, and too nutrient-poor to support complex societies. Early explorers spoke of ancient cities hidden beneath the foliage, but their tales were dismissed as fantasy until recently. Today, advances in aerial scanning technology, like LiDAR, light detection and ranging, have begun to peel back the jungle's green veil, revealing something astonishing. Entire cityscapes, road systems, agricultural terraces, and geometric earthworks. hidden for centuries beneath dense tropical forest. One of the most significant discoveries came in Bolivia and Brazil, where LiDAR revealed massive pre-Columbian settlements dating back more than 1,500 years. These weren't mere villages, they included gridded street layouts, ceremonial mounds, and pyramidal structures, causeways and canals connecting urban hubs, defensive ditches, and complex planning. Some sites, like those in the Llanos de Mojos region, show signs of continuous habitation, engineered landscapes, and urban planning on par with known classical civilizations. Who built them? The builders were part of sophisticated and diverse cultures that thrived in the Amazon long before European contact. Peoples like the Kasarabe and others yet unnamed. These societies may have supported hundreds of thousands of people, altering the rainforest in sustainable ways to support farming, trade, and ritual life. Their legacy is not only architectural, but ecological. Studies suggest that the wild Amazon is in part a human-shaped forest, carefully cultivated over generations. Certain groves of Brazil nut trees and palm clusters appear to be intentional, forming ancient food forests that still bear fruit today. So why did these cities vanish? European diseases like smallpox may have wiped out 90% or more of the population after first contact, leaving the jungle to reclaim what remained. Within decades, entire cultures disappeared, erased not by war, but by microbes. For centuries, the jungle hid their memory, but now it gives them back. As LiDAR continues to scan vast swaths of forest, more ruins emerge, suggesting the Amazon was once a network of civilizations, not a wilderness untouched by human hands. Their rediscovery rewrites the story of the Americas. It shows that ingenuity, engineering, and civilization are not exclusive to open plains or river valleys, but can flourish in even the most challenging environments. The jungle whispers their story again, if we're willing to listen. The megaliths of Nubia, forgotten monuments of Africa. South of Egypt, in what is now northern Sudan, lies the region once known as Nubia, a cradle of ancient civilization that thrived for millennia alongside the Nile. While Egypt is famed for its pyramids and temples, Nubia boasts its own megalithic wonders, many of which remain overshadowed by their northern neighbors. Among the most striking are the Nubian pyramids at Meroe, Nuri, and El Kuru. These steep-sided structures, often smaller than their Egyptian counterparts, are built from sandstone and stand in tight clusters across the desert. But Nubia holds even older secrets. Across its hills and plains are scattered stone circles, aligned standing stones, and yet tombs marked by ancient cairns. Some sites resemble Stonehenge in layout, with astronomical alignments to solstices and celestial events. Others suggest burial or ritual significance, linking the stars, the dead, and the divine in a cultural language that predates written records. These megaliths are believed to date back to the Kyushu, Neolithic, and Bronze Ages, making them thousands of years older than the Nubian pyramids. And yet, they remain largely unstudied. Who built them? The region was home to numerous early cultures, including the Old Group, C Group, and Kerma civilization. each leaving behind pottery, tools, and grave goods, but few written records. Kerma itself was a powerful kingdom by 2500 BCE, rivaling Egypt in wealth and complexity. The Kushite kingdom, which rose later, even conquered Egypt at one point, ruling as its 25th dynasty, and commissioning pyramids, temples, and sculptures across both lands. Despite their achievements, Nubian sites have been neglected, looted, or submerged by dam projects. Many lie buried beneath sand, awaiting excavation. Their architecture speaks of a unique style, less rigid than Egyptian forms, often more abstract and symbolic. And their orientation to the stars suggests a cosmology rooted in observation and reverence for celestial cycles. What knowledge did they encode in stone? Nubian megaliths remind us that Africa's ancient history extends far beyond the Nile Delta. They challenge the idea that civilization radiated only from the Mediterranean, showing instead a complex web of innovation, trade, and spiritual expression, stretching deep into the continent. Beneath the desert winds, these stones stand as monuments to Africa's silent architects, builders of time, space, and mystery. Derinkuyu, city beneath the earth. In the volcanic heartland of Cappadocia, Turkey, lies one of the most astounding architectural feats in human history. Not above ground, but deep beneath it. This is Derinkuyu, an ancient underground city, capable of sheltering up to 20,000 people, complete with ventilation shafts, wells, food storage areas, stables, churches, and schools, all carved from soft volcanic rock known as tuff. The city descends at least 18 stories, over 85 meters, below the surface, with narrow corridors, hidden chambers, and massive rolling stone doors that could seal off sections from invaders. But here's the mystery. Who built it and why? No inscriptions exist to identify the original architects. Some scholars believe the earliest levels may date back to the Hittites, around 1600 BCE, or even earlier, with later expansions during Byzantine times. Others suggest the underground complex predates known civilizations in the region, perhaps built in response to natural disasters, warfare, or something else entirely. What makes Derinkuyu remarkable is its engineering sophistication. Each level was ventilated by vertical shafts that draw fresh air from the surface. The city's layout suggests planning far beyond a simple shelter. It was a self-contained world, able to support life for months underground. Several other underground cities have been found across Cappadocia: Kaymakli, Uzkonak, Mazu. But Derinkuyu remains the largest and most elaborate. Some passages connect to nearby cities via dark tunnels stretching for kilometers, forming a vast subterranean network. Why would ancient people go to such incredible lengths? One theory suggests protection from invaders, especially during times of religious persecution. Others propose the underground complexes were designed to escape climate catastrophes or surface-level threats. now forgotten. Alternative researchers go further, speculating about lost knowledge, antediluvian civilizations, or even visitors from beyond Earth. Whatever the origin, Derinkuyu reflects a hidden chapter of human adaptability and resilience. It's a reminder that not all great cities reached for the sky. Some, instead, sank into the earth, creating shelter, sanctuary, and secrets still locked in stone. Göbekli Tepe, the temple that rewrote history. On a remote hilltop in southeastern Turkey, archaeologists uncovered a site that would change everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. This is Göbekli Tepe, a series of megalithic enclosures, some dating back to BCE, making it the oldest known temple complex on Earth. That's over 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. It predates the invention of writing, the wheel, and even agriculture. Yet its builders raised pillars weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in perfect circles, and carved with astonishing detail. Each T-shaped pillar stands as tall as 6 meters and bears reliefs of animals, scorpions, snakes, lions, vultures, and abstract symbols. Some seem to tell stories, mythical scenes, celestial alignments, or encoded messages. But who built it and why? At the time, humans were thought to be simple hunter-gatherers. Göbekli Tepe suggests otherwise. The complexity of the site implies a large coordinated workforce, long-term planning and labor, symbolic or religious intention, a cultural sophistication not previously attributed to people of that era. Some scholars now argue that religion may have sparked civilization, not the other way around. In other words, people may have gathered to worship at places like Göbekli Tepe, then began farming to sustain the community that formed around the sacred site. That's a reversal of the standard model of human development. Even stranger, the site was intentionally buried. Sometime around 8000 BCE, the builders backfilled the enclosures with tons of rubble and dirt, preserving them for millennia. Why? Was it an act of reverence or fear? Alternative theories abound. Some suggest Göbekli Tepe was an astronomical observatory, a portal to other dimensions, or a library of symbolic knowledge from a lost civilization. Others link it to the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, a global cataclysm that may have wiped out an earlier advanced society. Despite decades of study, only a small portion of the site has been excavated. Many more structures lie buried beneath the hill, waiting to be revealed. Göbekli Tepe is a message from a forgotten time. It tells us that the human story is older, deeper, and stranger than we imagined. And that long before the first cities rose from riverbanks, people were carving stone to reach the stars, and perhaps the gods. The Antikythera mechanism, ancient tech ahead of its time. In 1901, sponge divers off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera discovered a shipwreck filled with statues, pottery, and a corroded lump of bronze unlike anything ever seen. When researchers examined it, they uncovered a technological marvel. The Antikythera mechanism, often called the first analog computer in human history, dating back to around 100 BCE. The device consists of over 30 bronze gears, dials, and inscriptions, all housed within a wooden box no larger than a shoebox. Once reconstructed, it became clear that the mechanism could predict solar and lunar eclipses, Track planetary movements. Calculate the timing of the Olympic Games. Model lunar phases with extraordinary precision. It was so advanced that nothing comparable appeared in the historical record for at least 1,000 years. How was such knowledge possible in the ancient world? The Greeks were known for their mathematical brilliance, but the craftsmanship of the Antikythera mechanism suggests precision engineering, gear cutting, and astronomical understanding far beyond what was thought possible in antiquity. Some of the gears are tiny, with tooth counts calculated to model Metonic and Saros cycles, long-term astronomical patterns still used in modern eclipse prediction. The device even includes a dial for the Callipic cycle, combining solar and lunar calendars, a level of calendrical complexity associated with modern computing, not ancient metallurgy. X-ray tomography revealed even more gears hidden inside, prompting new reconstructions and theories about its full capability. But questions remain. Was this a one-off invention, or part of a larger technological tradition? Who built it? Archimedes, a lost school of Hellenistic engineering. How was such intricate knowledge lost for over a millennium? Some suggest the knowledge perished in the destruction of libraries like Alexandria, or during periods of war and cultural collapse. Others wonder what else lies undiscovered beneath the sea. The Antikythera mechanism forces us to reconsider the line between ancient and modern. It's not just a relic. It's evidence that human curiosity and intellect have always reached beyond the visible stars, using gears, math, and imagination to decode the cosmos. In its silence, it ticks a quiet truth. We may not have invented brilliance, we simply rediscovered it. The Minoans, Atlantis of the Bronze Age. Long before the rise of classical Greece, the island of Crete was home to the Minoan civilization, a culture so advanced it rivaled anything in the ancient Mediterranean. From roughly 3000 to 1450 BCE, the Minoans built multi-story palaces, sophisticated plumbing systems, colorful frescoes, and a trade empire that spanned the Aegean Sea. At the heart of their world stood Knossos, a sprawling palace with hundreds of rooms, staircases, courtyards, and what may have been one of the first written scripts, Linear A, and then it all disappeared. Around 600 BCE, the massive eruption of the volcano at Thera, modern-day Santorini, rocked the region. It was one of the most powerful volcanic events in recorded history, likely triggering tsunamis, ash clouds, and climate disruption. Some believe this disaster crippled the Minoans, devastating coastal cities and agricultural systems. Within a few generations, the civilization collapsed. Their cities were abandoned, Linear A was forgotten, and their influence faded, eventually overtaken by the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece. Could this be the real story behind Atlantis? Plato, writing 1,000 years later, described a technologically advanced island civilization that disappeared in a single day and night of catastrophe. The similarities to the Minoans are striking. An island-based, seafaring power, high cultural development, sudden destruction by water and fire, vanishing into legend. While the Atlantis story may be symbolic, many scholars believe it could be a cultural echo of the Minoan collapse. passed down through oral history and reshaped into myth. But mysteries remain. We still can't read Linear A. We don't know what the Minoans called themselves. And their art, depicting bull-leaping athletes, goddesses, and dreamlike landscapes, suggests a worldview radically different from neighboring cultures. Were they a matriarchal society? Did they possess forgotten seafaring or architectural knowledge? Why were they so abruptly erased? The Minoans challenge the idea that cultural greatness is linear. They remind us that advanced societies have risen and fallen before, and sometimes the real Atlantis lies just beneath the layers of ash and myth. Submerged ruins off the coast of India, cities lost to the sea. Beneath the waves of the Bay of Cambay, off the coast of modern-day Gujarat, India, sonar scans in 2001 revealed something astonishing. Regular geometric formations, grids, straight lines, and what appeared to be the remains of man-made structures stretching across several square kilometers of the seafloor. The discovery ignited global attention. Could these be the remnants of an ancient city lost to rising seas thousands of years ago? Some researchers believe the site may be over 9,000 years old, which would place it far earlier than the Indus Valley civilization and challenge the mainstream timeline of urban development in South Asia. Diving expeditions recovered carved stone blocks, pottery shards, fossilized bones, and human teeth. Tools and artifacts resembling those from much later periods. Carbon dating of some materials returned results of RSAT 7500 BCE. Though skeptics argue these samples may not have been found in situ or could have originated from natural processes. Still, the possibility remains that an advanced culture once thrived on land that is now submerged by ocean. India's ancient texts may hint at this. The Mahabharata and Puranas speak of cities like Dwarka, ruled by Lord Krishna, said to have been swallowed by the sea. Myths often blend history with metaphor, but sometimes they preserve truths overlooked by science. Further south, off the coast of Tamil Nadu near Pumpuhar, divers have found stone steps, pillars, and structures resting under the surf, sites that align with legends of the 7 temples of Mahabalipuram, of which only one remains on land today. Are these remnants of a pan-Indian maritime culture, erased by post-Ice Age sea level rise? Mainstream archaeologists urge caution, citing limited peer-reviewed excavation and the challenges of underwater dating. But new discoveries continue to emerge, raising the question: how much history has been lost to the oceans? As technology like LiDAR and advanced sonar improves, researchers are now mapping submerged coastlines worldwide, uncovering sites that may represent entire chapters of civilization hidden beneath the waves. The sea doesn't forget. It keeps secrets in silence until we dare to listen. The Vinci symbols, Europe's forgotten script. In the heart of the Balkans, long before the rise of Rome or Greece, a mysterious culture flourished along the banks of the Danube River. Known today as the Vinci civilization, it existed between 700 and 4500 BCE, leaving behind a trail of clay figurines, decorated pottery, and something far more enigmatic: inscribed symbols that some believe represent the oldest form of writing in the world. First uncovered near Vincha, Serbia, and later found across Romania, Bulgaria, and Hungary, these markings, dubbed the Vincha symbols, or Old European script, consist of abstract shapes, geometric lines and swirls, repeating characters etched into pottery, amulets, and figurines. Some of the symbols appear thousands of years before. Sumerian cuneiform, traditionally considered the world's first writing system. This has led to an explosive question: was Europe home to the first script? Mainstream scholars remain cautious. They argue the symbols may be decorative or symbolic, not tied to phonetic language or grammar. Yet patterns and repetitions suggest a systematic use, not mere ornamentation. Linguist Maria Gimbutas proposed that the symbols belonged to a matriarchal, goddess-centered culture, with a rich symbolic language that never developed into full phonetic writing because of cultural shifts and later invasions. Others point out the similarities between Vincha symbols and later systems. Proto-Elamite glyphs, Linear A and B. Early runes and Indus signs. Could they share a common origin, or echo an even earlier system now lost? What's more, the Vincha culture itself was remarkably advanced. Large settlements with streets and multi-room houses. Evidence of metalworking and organized trade. Artistic consistency over centuries. And yet, like many ancient cultures, the Vincha people vanished, absorbed or replaced by Indo-European migrations around 4500 BCE. Their symbols were forgotten, their meaning erased, and their legacy reduced to puzzling markings on ancient shards of clay. But as archaeologists revisit these symbols with new tools, pattern recognition software, AI translation models, and deeper comparative studies, the possibility remains that Europe's first written language, lies not in Latin or Greek, but in the cryptic signs carved by a long-forgotten civilization of the Neolithic Danube. And it waits, still undecoded, to tell its story. The Jordan lead codices, forbidden knowledge or forgery. In 2008, a cache of small books, bound in lead and inscribed with strange symbols, surfaced in Jordan, known as the Jordan lead codices. These tablets immediately stirred global intrigue and controversy. The codices, often no larger than a credit card, feature ancient-looking text in Paleo-Hebrew and Greek, images of menorahs, stars, and temples, bindings made from rings of lead, a patina suggesting great antiquity. Some pages appear to reference early Christianity, Jewish mysticism, and then apocalyptic themes. Could these be first-century religious documents, perhaps even predating canonical scripture? Initial reports suggested they might contain references to Jesus, the Kish Temple in Jerusalem, and secret teachings passed through esoteric sects. If authentic, the Jordan codices would be among the most significant finds in biblical archaeology, offering a glimpse into forgotten gospels, and younger mystical branches of Judaism and Christianity. But the excitement quickly met skepticism. Experts raised red flags. The writing was inconsistent or nonsensical. Some symbols were out of place for the proposed time period. Metallurgical analysis showed mixed results, some consistent with antiquity, others not. One of the greatest concerns: the sudden appearance of over 70 codices from a private source, with little verifiable excavation data. Were they forged? Or were they real relics, suppressed due to their contents? Some researchers argue that the codices challenge orthodoxy, offering versions of Christian thought considered heretical. That would make them a threat to established narratives and a motive for discrediting them. Others believe they are clever forgeries, possibly made to deceive collectors or create sensational headlines. To this day, the debate continues. The Jordanian government has tried to reclaim the codices as national heritage, while scholars remain divided over their legitimacy. Until proper provenance, peer-reviewed translation, and unbiased scientific testing are made public, the truth remains locked, like the codices themselves, in lead. Real or fake, the Jordan codices reflect a deeper truth, that even today, ancient texts can shake belief, challenge history, and blur the line between myth and revelation. The Piri Reis map, ancient knowledge on a Renaissance scroll. In 1929, while cataloguing old manuscripts at Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, scholars stumbled upon a rolled-up parchment fragment from 1513. Drawn in colored inks and annotated in Ottoman Turkish, it was the work of an admiral and cartographer named Piri Reis. But this was no ordinary map. It depicted the geodes, coastlines of South America, West Africa, and a portion of Antarctica, centuries before Antarctica was officially discovered. Even more startling, the section resembling Antarctica appeared ice-free, showing detailed shorelines that are now buried under kilometers of glacial ice. How could a map from 1513 show such data? Piri Reis himself explained that his map was compiled using older source charts, some dating back to ancient times, possibly inherited from Greek geographers, Islamic navigators, and even maps from the time of Alexander the Great. Some researchers, like Charles Hapgood, theorized that ancient seafaring cultures may have charted the world long before modern history admits. His theory of crustal displacement suggests Antarctica may once have been ice-free and mapped by a prehistoric advanced civilization. Skeptics argue the Antarctica resemblance is a coincidence, that the southern landmass is a misdrawn representation of South America, or an imagined Terra Australis. But supporters note the accuracy of other coastlines on the map. The Brazilian coast appears correctly curved. The map includes detailed features not yet known in 1513. Some islands and ports are shown in the correct relative positions. Could this suggest access to lost cartographic knowledge? Others point to Piri Reis's clear annotations, where he describes ancient maps no longer in existence as his sources. If true, what libraries or civilizations once held these maps? The map also contains references to mythical lands and strange creatures, blending accurate navigation with fantastical lore. It straddles the boundary between fact and fable, between Renaissance curiosity and the echoes of a deeper past. Whatever its origins, the Piri race map is real. It survives, and it continues to raise questions that no globe or GPS can answer. How old is our knowledge of the world? And what if history's true explorers were forgotten long ago? The stone spheres of Costa Rica, messages in marble, scattered across the Diquís Delta in southern Costa Rica, are hundreds of nearly perfect stone spheres, ranging in size from a few centimeters to over past 2 meters in diameter. Some weigh more than 15 tons, yet are crafted with astonishing smoothness and symmetry. These are the Huanch stone spheres of Costa Rica, known locally as Las Bolas. They were first discovered in the 1930s during banana plantation development, but have since become one of Central America's most enduring mysteries. Who made them? The spheres are believed to be the work of the French Diquís culture, which thrived from around 700 to 1500 CE. Yet little is known about these people, and no written records remain. What survives are stone tools, ceremonial sites, and these enigmatic orbs. How were they made? Most are carved from granodiorite, a hard volcanic rock not easily shaped. Some also come from limestone or sandstone. The craftsmanship suggests not only advanced tools, but also a refined understanding of geometry and aesthetics. And their purpose, that's where mystery turns to speculation. Some spheres were found aligned in straight lines, triangles, and curved patterns, possibly marking astronomical alignments, burial sites or elite homes, ceremonial or political centers, but many have been moved from their original context, damaged or stolen over time, making interpretation difficult. Local legends claim the spheres were created by art giants, or that they contain hidden treasures. One myth suggests they were made with magic or by softening stone, an idea echoed in other ancient mysteries. Mainstream archaeology sees them as status symbols or boundary markers, but their perfection raises deeper questions. Why such precision? Why so many? And why in such specific placements? Some have drawn parallels with the Moai of Easter Island, the Olmec heads of Mesoamerica, megalithic globes found in Bosnia and elsewhere. Could they reflect a widespread symbolic language, now forgotten? In 2014, UNESCO declared the Diquís spheres a World Heritage Site, recognizing them as cultural treasures. But despite protection, many remain vulnerable to theft, erosion, and misinterpretation. What remains clear is this: the people of ancient Costa Rica didn't just carve stones. They shaped silence into form, leaving messages in marble that still wait to be understood. Zipantitlan, the forgotten Atlantis of the New World. Among the many legends whispered through the canyons and jungles of ancient Mesoamerica, one name emerges in hushed echoes: Zipantitlan. This mysterious land is mentioned in the ancient Codex Vaticanus A, also called the Codex Rios, a post-conquest manuscript based on Aztec oral histories and older sources. In it, Zipantitlan is described as a mythical place to the east, rich in culture and divine knowledge, from which the ancestors of the Toltecs and Aztecs may have originated. In Nahuatl, Zipantitlan means place of the shining waters. Some describe it as an island or coastal realm, lush, radiant, and eventually consumed by cataclysm. Could this be Atlantis, reimagined in the New World? Some researchers think so. They see strong parallels. A Golden Age civilization, sudden destruction, often by water. Cultural survivors bringing knowledge to other lands. A legacy of sacred geometry, temples, and skywatching. Proponents link Tepoztlan to the mythical Aztlan, ancestral homeland of the Aztecs, the Olmecs, whose sudden emergence remains a mystery. Cataclysmic floods described in Mesoamerican mythology, and even ruins in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean seabed. The Toltecs, considered cultural torchbearers of ancient Mexico, also traced their origins to a land beyond the known world. They brought architecture, astronomy, and esoteric knowledge, hallmarks of a once great but lost source. But skeptics argue that Tepoztlan was never a real place, just a symbolic metaphor for cosmic cycles or spiritual journeys. They point out that many ancient cultures placed their origins in distant, mystical lands. Still, the consistency of the flood myths, the detailed cosmologies, and the legacy of sudden, advanced cultures arising in Mesoamerica continue to provoke questions. What if Tepoztlan was more than myth? What if its memory preserves a prehistoric civilization, forgotten in time and submerged beneath rising seas or buried beneath volcanic ash? Like Atlantis, Tepoztlan may never be found on a map, but it lives in codices, in legends, and in the stones of pyramids built long after its name faded. And perhaps its story still runs through the rivers and ruins of the land it once called home. The Nazca Lines, desert glyphs beyond understanding, stretching across the arid plains of southern Peru, etched into the sun-baked soil for over 1,500 years, lie the Nazca Lines, one of archaeology's most enduring enigmas, first rediscovered in the 1920s. From aircraft. The lines are only fully visible from above. They form vast geoglyphs depicting animals like monkeys, spiders, hummingbirds, and whales, human-like figures with radiant heads, massive geometric shapes, trapezoids, spirals, arrows, and long, ruler-straight lines that stretch for kilometers. Some lines span over 10 kilometers, and the largest figures cover areas larger than several football fields. But how and why were they created? The Nazca culture, active between 200 BCE and 600 CE, is credited with these enormous desert etchings. By removing dark surface stones to expose lighter sand beneath, they created lines that have endured for centuries in the dry, windless climate. Theories abound. Mainstream archaeology suggests the lines served religious or ceremonial purposes. Some align with solstices and celestial events. Others may mark pilgrimage routes. Animal glyphs might honor deities or nature spirits linked to fertility and water. But alternative ideas push the boundaries of interpretation. Erich von Däniken famously proposed that the lines were ancient runways, used by sky visitors or aircraft from a forgotten high-tech culture. Others believe they encode astronomical maps, sonic resonances, or even ritual walking paths meant to be read on foot over time. Satellite analysis shows intriguing alignments, and the discovery of new, previously unseen geoglyphs suggests a larger symbolic system still being uncovered. Recent studies with drones and AI have identified more than 140 new figures, some so faint or eroded they were invisible to the naked eye for decades. What's remarkable is the planning and scale involved. Without aerial technology, how did ancient artists maintain such precise proportions across such massive distances? No scaffolding, no ballooning, just human feet, cord, and vision. The Nazca lines remain uninscribed, silent symbols baked into Earth's surface. They're not texts, yet they communicate. Not buildings, yet they endure. Perhaps they are prayers. Perhaps they are maps. Or perhaps they are messages, not to us, but to the skies. And as long as they remain, they whisper something older than words, waiting for someone to finally listen. The Baltic Sea. Anomaly. Nature's sculpture or sunken machine. In 2011, a Swedish diving team exploring the Baltic Sea stumbled upon something that would launch 1,000 theories. At a depth of around 90 meters, their sonar scans revealed a massive circular object lying on the seafloor. It resembled a crashed spacecraft. Dubbed the Baltic Sea Anomaly, the object is roughly 70 meters in diameter, with features that sparked immediate intrigue. A perfectly rounded shape, right angles and symmetrical lines, what appears to be a long runway or track leading to it. Unusual materials and magnetic interference affecting equipment nearby. The discovery ignited wild speculation. Some suggested it was a wide-eyed sunken UFO, pointing to its resemblance to the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Others thought it could be an ancient structure, a forgotten temple, or even the remnants of a technologically advanced civilization lost beneath the waves. But what does science say? Initial dives by the team, called Ocean X, returned photos showing rough, stone-like textures, arching corridors or grooves, areas that appeared melted or scorched. However, many scientists argue the anomaly is a natural formation, the result of Mars glacial movement, rock fractures, or sedimentary layering, shaped over thousands of years. They cite a lack of definitive man-made features and the difficulty of analyzing sonar data in cold, murky waters. Still, several elements remain unexplained. Strange electrical disturbances in the area. Odd samples of volcanic-like rock, not typical of the Baltic region. The eerie geometry of the object itself. Is it an illusion caused by sonar noise? Or is there truly something beneath the sea that defies geological explanation? With limited funding and growing skepticism, further expeditions stalled. To this day, no full excavation has been performed, and the anomaly remains largely untouched. The Baltic Sea. Anomaly challenges the boundary between natural and artificial, between skepticism and open-minded inquiry. Until clearer data emerges, it will remain what it has always been, a mystery, cold, submerged, and waiting. The Baghdad Battery, ancient electricity. In 1938, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig unearthed a strange object near Baghdad, Iraq, in the ruins of an ancient Parthian village. It appeared to be a wet clay jar, about 13 centimeters tall, containing a copper cylinder, an iron rod, traces of acidic residue, like vinegar or grape juice. When assembled, it resembled a simple galvanic cell, what we now recognize as a battery. Known today as the Baghdad Battery, this artifact ignited one of the most electrifying debates in archaeology. Was it a real source of electricity, created more than 2,000 years ago? If filled with an acidic liquid, the jar could produce a low voltage, enough to power electroplating, transmit signals, or create mild shocks. And yet, no wires, conductors, or connected devices were found with it. Skeptics argue it was likely a storage jar, a container for scrolls or sacred materials, or even part of a ritual or alchemical practice, but others point to the possibility that it was part of a lost technological tradition. Could ancient craftsmen have used primitive batteries to electroplate gold or silver onto other metals, stun animals during religious rites, heal ailments with electric currents? Similar jars were found nearby, though not all had internal metal components. Some believe the idea of electricity was rediscovered centuries later, possibly known and then forgotten. There's also a cultural precedent. Ancient texts from Greece and India reference mysterious forces, living fire, and healing energy that some interpret as electrical in nature. But with limited evidence and no direct documentation, the Baghdad Battery remains in limbo. Was it science ahead of its time, or simply a misunderstood artifact, misinterpreted through a modern lens? Until a definitive use is proven or a companion device discovered, the Baghdad Battery hums silently with mystery, a relic that may or may not have sparked history's first current. Temples that speak, ancient acoustics, and sonic mysteries. Scattered across the ancient world are sacred spaces where sound behaves in impossible ways, where whispers travel dozens of meters, where chants echo with uncanny resonance, and where architecture seems tuned not just to the eye, but to the ear. These are the key sonic temples, structures that suggest a deep, ancient understanding of the acoustics. In Chavin de Huanta, in the highlands of Peru, a 3,000-year-old temple was built with underground galleries and twisting corridors. Inside, the sound of conch shells and low-frequency instruments reverberates with intense power, creating disorienting, trance-like effects. Archaeologists now believe these spaces were engineered for Heket rituals involving sound, manipulating the mind and senses. In experiments, low tones caused participants to feel euphoria or fear, spatial disorientation, a sense of divine presence. In Chita, Malta, the prehistoric hypogeum of Halsaflieni, over 5,000 years old, contains a chamber known as the Ane Oracle Room. Here, a voice spoken at certain frequencies causes the entire stone complex to resonate, amplifying sound without modern amplification. Only male voices between 90 to 120 Hz seem to activate this resonance, a mystery still being studied by acoustic scientists. Similar sonic precision is found in the Great Pyramid of Giza, whose inner chambers resonate at specific frequencies. Stonehenge, where sound reflects inward from the circle. Ancient amphitheaters in Greece, designed for clarity without microphones. What was the purpose? Some researchers believe sound was a sacred force, used to induce altered states, communicate with deities, or even manipulate matter through vibration. Myths from Egypt, India, and Sumer all describe the universe being created by sound, word, or breath. Could these architectural marvels be expressions of that cosmology? Modern engineers struggle to replicate some of these effects without electronic modeling. Yet ancient builders achieved them with intuition, stone, and sacred geometry. Whether for ceremony, healing, or transcendence, these sites reveal a forgotten truth: that the ancients didn't just build to shelter or impress. They built to resonate with the earth, with the cosmos, and with something deep inside the human spirit.